if there are any questions, I think so, we will entertain, I don't know how many minutes that we have, but we'll entertain some questions, and then if there are also any contributions, we also take them. Thank you.
We have about 5 minutes before the food gets cold.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll ask the question.
5 minutes before the food gets cold.
Yes,
I have 2 questions. My first one was with regards to the cohabitation thing. Like, you can give an example of cohabitation, which like is not fornication, and I know this is probably like an outlier, but like you could have like 2 people living in a building with no physical relationship, and like thanks to scientific advancements, have like a child together without a physical relationship. And so like, although that is an outlier, you can't have that happen. So I'm just like, what line would that fall in? Because there's no physical relationship, so it can't be classified as fornication. But I understand it's like an outlier, it's probably very, very rare.
Yeah. Yes, there could be an outlier. But the truth is, the Bible tells us that what does that mean? Supposing you are a chicken, supposing I'm a hen, and then there is corn that is put here. Now, naturally, that is what they will take. And he said, is there, the hen is going to be here, they're not going to eat. Okay, it could happen. But for the sake of you and I, the Bible gives a lot of advice for the Christian youth. In the book of Timothy, he says, flee. Not walk, not run, but flee from it. Anything that can bring you, anything that can entice you, my brothers, my sisters, I think it's better to stay away from it than to say, sir, I'm too strong, I can do it. The truth is, we can't. That is the reality, that is the honest truth. Second question.
My last question was like, what would you define as marriage? Because like, it seems like in order to know what you should do before marriage, you should know what marriage is, and it's like, is it just signing the papers? Is it the party? Is it like, informing your parents? Because I asked all this question because I'm like, well, if that is like just informing your parents, then you could go the route of going, instead of informing your parents of like in the direct sentence, I'm getting married, you could say, I am getting like, and then you basically define marriage and all the other activities associated with to this person. That way you avoid this whole situation. And so I'm just like, yeah, I'm asking about like this thing right here.
Okay. So what is marriage? Mama, tell me, Mama, what is marriage? You want to help our brother. What is marriage? Okay, yes, sir.
Remember the one with the juice and said, don't touch it? That time she went back and touched the juice.
Okay, no. Help you out. Oh, you have a question? Okay, take the question. I was waiting for someone to answer. What is marriage? The cow here, listen. I want one of you to help me out.
Can I?
Who is helping me? Okay.
I believe marriage is a partnership.
Okay.
That depends on each party to succeed.
Okay.
If one party is left alone, there's going to be a disaster. So marriage has to be a partnership that each party will be one with each other. That your weakness is my strength is your weakness. The other way cannot succeed.
Right. So yeah, there's the partnership, but maybe very simple because it is a 5 minutes. See, when we talk about marriage, there are some aspects to it, and depending on where you are in the world, people may have different, perceptions, but in the end, it boils down to the same thing. Marriage is a union between a man and a woman. That's point number one. Now today, there are some who say it doesn't matter. A man can marry, a woman can marry. That is not what the Bible teaches us. Marriage is a union between a man and a woman. That's point number one. Point number two is, what type of union are we talking about? Like what type of partnership are we talking about? There is, we don't marry just for, companionship, right? It's part of it, right? That person is my friend, my companion. I can talk to that person can talk to me. It's all good. And then there's a consummation aspect of it as well, which is the two of them are actually meeting. And again, I think there's a whole lot of discussion around when does marriage becomes a marriage, right? Is it at a point where I go to the parents and then do the bridal rites? Is there a point where actually the man and the woman meet? But very simply, the three things that I said, it's a partnership between a man and a woman. Number two is that there should be some consummation involved in that. And then last time I said, if we are talking about Christians, then that whole should be ruled by God and then His principles, what He has taught us. If we use those three things, I think we'll be good. And it's about more, we can come back to it later. Nana, I think you had a question.
Hello, guys. Thank you so much for your lecture. My question has to do with singleness. I feel like whenever we talk about marriage and relationships, you get to a certain age and your mom is kind of like, hey, did you find a nice guy? And then no one really talks about the period of singleness. So my question has to do with how do we spend, especially as a young lady, how do we spend this time to really prepare and kind of talk about like our period of singleness? What should I be doing? What should I be, how do I become the best version of myself during this time of singleness? And it says like a man who finds a good wife. Like if I find a guy, I'm like, oh, he's really cute. It's like I'm supposed to be expected to wait for the guy to approach me, but how do I prepare? And like, of course, my mom is teaching me how to cook, and I'm in church, and marrying in the church and all this. Like, but during this time of singleness, how am I supposed to be like the best version of myself? We're talking about all these like, before I say I do, but it's like I'm also supposed to be the best version of myself, and how do I get rid of that? Stop laughing because I don't know what a lot. So thank you.
Okay. No, I think it's a great question. So I would actually, Sister Star is going to help me. So
for you ladies, how you doing? I'm Star. I know what you're talking about. I've been there. Always focus on you. God knows what goes on in your life. The reason why is because sometimes in this world, sometimes you get the pressure of what your friends are doing and everyone else, and you get caught up in that. No. Focus on God. Trust God. The relationship years ago, and I was just so tired of him. He was so good to me, but I wasn't in love. Nowhere near it. After 2 years, I just let it go. He was begging, screaming, whatever. But it didn't matter to me. And then what I did was, I got on my hand and knees. And I was in my 30s. And I said, dear Lord, I give it all to you. I surrender. Help me to focus on you and you alone. Please don't bring any man in my life unless he's marriage material. I promise you. 9 months to the day, it was a phone call. The company was closing. I wanted to hire the people. The manager on the other side of that phone was my husband. I didn't know, but it was just something in me, and I knew it was from God. And within me, I believed that with all my heart. And then I met him, and that's all she wrote. So what I'm saying to you is, no matter what your parents are saying, no matter what anyone is saying, I promise, if you stay focused on God, He will deliver everything you ask Him for. He will, especially a man, a godly man. Keep that in mind.
that's good. Thank you, Sister. There was a hand here before I come to you. So, Okay, we'll come there. Go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Alfred again. Yeah, I was going to ask the cohabitation question. There's nothing like an outlier. Because when you look at the definition of cohabitation, is living together and having sex without marriage. There's nothing to it. So you can't say, we define it like we are just living together and nothing's going to happen. So rather, don't think about that. The second one is, before I say I do, should we look for strictly Christian partners or non-Christian husbands? Because sometimes it also leads to all kinds of issues. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean that's a very good question. I think what I would say is it's always better to find your partner who has the same belief as you. And here is why. Suppose I'm a Muslim and I go and marry a Christian woman. Or suppose I go to a different church. I still call myself a Christian, but then my wife goes to another church. But then the belief system is totally different. Today you may not see it, but then let's think future. Let's think if God were to bless you with children, how are you going to raise them? Am I going to raise them as a Muslim or as a Christian? Am I going to raise them as a Catholic or am I going to a Christian church? Right, so this is something that we need to think deeply about. Today we are thinking about, oh, I met this person, this guy, this lady, he or she is nice, I think we click, so we're going to go get married. But we're not thinking about anything else. We're just thinking about we saw each other and we are attracted to each other. The truth of the matter, and it didn't come in my kind of discussion, but the truth is, do we know that opposites attract? I mean, and there is a whole study on that. I mean, I didn't want to bring it because it was going to just take too much time. But the point is, if we belong to the same faith and then raise our kids, I think it's going to be good. The second point is, we've talked about there are going to be challenges in the marriage. Some things that we did not expect is going to happen in the relationship. All right. So I go to Pentecost. My wife goes to Church of Christ. Which minister are we invited to come to address that issue? Is it the Pentecost minister? Is it the Church of Christ minister? If I'm bringing my Pentecost, my wife is going to say, no, I want the Church of Christ. Okay, how do we handle that? Right? So there's a lot of challenges. The Bible, it doesn't, categorically say you cannot go and then marry, somebody who's not in the church. But there are a lot of guideposts which suggest that we should marry in the church, right? Because it talks about, what relationship does the world have with, the Christian, right? How can they, kind of have the yoke together? So all those things in my mind, the conclusion is, let's marry in the church. But if someone were to go marry outside the church, that's where, at least my perspective. I'm not going to say because they didn't, they've sinned. I can't, at least I can't say that, right? But the advice is, if we can, let's do it in the church. Last point there, why I believe that is, the right decision to take is, if we think about our lives, our journey on this earth, and we think about our friendship and then the marriage relationship that we're going to get in, most of the times what happens is, we try to actually have not just, you have no wife, but you're going to have like a family outside, like your friends out there. And again, if you are in there when there are issues, when there are challenges, I think, you know, you are better served with the members of the church coming to your aid. There are some who go out thinking that, oh, they can bring them in, and they end up leaving. I've seen that many, many times. You know, they say, sir, oh, Mr. Evangelism. It will be called my evangelism. I'm doing an evangelism by bringing somebody in. Okay. But can you really, you know, hold on to your faith? Should you marry someone who is also rigid and not going to come? What do you do? That is what I would say. There was a hand back there. Yes.
Can we take
that hand came two.
Two more questions?
That one and then Precious.
At least write down your questions for the panel.
Okay. If there are any other questions, we can discuss it later today. Please go ahead.
My question let's say, for instance, you are ready to marry, you found your person, you go bring them to the parents and stuff like that. What happens if the family just approves of the person you bring? What do you do in that instance?
That's a good question. And I will start with marriage it's really, there is a cultural aspect to marriage. And what do I mean by that? Right? The Bible tells us in the book of Genesis, because the book of Matthew, we learn that the man is going to leave their parents and then go and then cleave with the wife. What is that process? Very simple, that's what the Bible says. But culturally, you know, each culture, you know, has like their ways of doing things. So being a Ghanaian, the culture is that the man goes to the family of the female and then seek. Now what you're saying is, I don't know if it's the man or the woman or it doesn't matter, either party, you know, if the parents are not accepting of that. I think that's the question. I think the first thing that we do, and again, it was a short lecture so we didn't get into the details, and I think Sastar mentioned that. Prayer is one of the key things that we all, as Christians, need to be engaged in. We need to be practicing it. We need to be really into it. So before I even found that partner, you know, did I pray over it? How am I sure that that is really, you know, the person that I'm supposed to get married to? Right? Is my parents saying no because maybe that is not the right person? I don't know. But what I do know is if we truly go to God in prayer and we ask and then we seek, right, for God's guidance there. And if that person is true the person, then my inclination is that, yes, probably your parents are going to accept it. But even if they don't, right, then there is an additional step that we take, which is being able to still engage with them, try to understand where they're coming from. Right? Sometimes they are uneasy about, you know, certain things. And if you know about it, then you can have that conversation to that. But I think that is what I can say. But
okay, thank you. In this world, it is full of culture. Every country, every tribe has a culture. And where most of us come from, Ghana, we have cultures. Though we are Christians, but we cannot rule out our culture. 4 families try to bring 2 people together to marry. You cannot rule one out, and that is the lady's father's family, the lady's mother's family, the man's father's family, the man's mother's family. They come together. And in that culture, if a man wants to marry, he cannot just go and then get married. He tells his father, and then they try to investigate. They know certain things. For example, if the man that you are in love, you want to marry, in his background, there are crazy people there. They end up to be mad. Or they are epileptic over there. So your parent will say, no, I cannot let you go there because of that reason, because of that reason. Some also use religion. A Muslim going to marry a Muslim, oh, no way, I will not allow you. Know that your parents have something to do in your marriage. It is not like America. I married an American. And America, you don't pay any dowry to the woman's parent. Or pay, yes. But over there in Ghana, if you are from that culture, the dowry is very important. So especially you women who are from Ghana or in the Akan or any type of tribe or culture in Ghana, listen, a man can never give his daughter free of charge to someone. It cannot be possible. Because when you marry in a Ghanaian culture, you marry all the family. But here in America, the culture is different. A man can just see or meet a woman, and then they go to court. They are married. It is accepted because they have signed the marriage certificate, and it is allowed. That is what, yeah. So what I'm saying is that if you are in that culture, know that your parents must have something to do in the marriage. So if they are saying, no, you cannot do that, you cannot do this, try to understand, or get some noble people to talk to your parents so that they can understand you. Otherwise, you will go into that marriage and then have problems. Again, we have cultures. Therefore, some cultures, when you go to marry over there, you have problems in the future. For example, you are an Akan man going to marry someone from Volta or upper region. And you know what I'm trying to say. Either you are Ibe or Gan or a woman coming to marry someone, she, Asante or something like that. You have a problem in the future. Why? Because the Akan culture, whenever someone is born, that person belongs to the woman's family. In the other cultures like Gan, Volta, Opa, when someone is born, that person or a baby belongs to the father's family. So when they grow, and probably the parents are not there, you see that the one who was born into that marriage is not accepted in the father's family. Why? Because for them, anyone who is born belongs to who? The woman's family. So you have to study the culture. If because of that your parent is saying, no, I don't accept it, but do it this way, then you must look at it, especially people of this age. You have to understand, you have to be taught, and for you to take a good decision. Well, in the American culture, even parents may not be needed in that, because it is the two who are in love. You see, the two who are in love. But in our culture in Ghana, it is not like that. So you must understand the wealth of cultures before you can say, I do. Thank you.
Our God is an awesome God. Our God is an awesome God. He reigns from heaven above with wisdom, power. Our God is an awesome God. Now when he rolled up his sleeves, he wasn't putting on the Ritz. Our God is an awesome God. There's thunder in his footsteps, a lightning in his fist. Our God